this NextGen air traffic flow system. It's not going to be actually what you see on the screen, but this is just a makeup by Photoshop. But this is what NextGen is. From the ground-based systems, which is basically what radars and VORs, which is very high omni-frequency navigation equipment, NDBs, non-directional beacons. All those things have their limitations. They are line of sight. Line of sight means that only if you're behind the hill, you will not receive it. If you're too far away, you will not receive it. And if there is weather, it also gets affected. If it is, so now they're changing over to satellite system, which is basically GPS and many other systems that go with it. Okay. So the advantage of that is that you will be in contact with, in communication with the air traffic controller as well as other aircraft. So your safety is going to be much better. And you can go, instead of going from one beacon to another beacon and increase the total distance of travel because you're going zigzagging, here you will be able to go straight from point A to point B without any problems, because satellite is giving you all that information right in your cockpit, and it is also giving you information about other aircraft in the region and anything coming to your towards you or near you. Okay, so let me very briefly explain some of the key features of the NextGen air traffic control system. This is started off in 2012 and is expected to be fully operational by 2025. Anybody who does not use this will be lagging behind. You'll have a lot of problems because you will not be in the air traffic flow system. So even now, like I said, it's 2020, and most of the airlines are using it, especially transatlantic and crossing Atlantic, and also in Europe. There's an equipment called ADS-B. 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 Anybody has heard about this ADS-B? Anyone? No idea?
No, sir.
Okay. Automatic detection and surveillance broadcast. So the satellite and the aircraft, they have receivers, just like you have your GPS. ADS-B is not only telling you about your position, but it is also broadcasting and telling others where you are. So air traffic controller also knows, and other aircraft in the area will also know where you are. And you navigate, and then there is an equipment called CPDLC. CPDLC is controller pilot data link connection or communication. Now, what this is just like your WhatsApp or your text messages. So if there is any communication that the air traffic controller wants to say something, he'll just put it on the CPDLC and you get that information right away. Okay. So what you see is somebody wanted to join in. Okay. Is a written text, and there cannot be any confusion in this. We talked about some case studies about miscommunication between aircraft and the air traffic control tower, and the pilot did not understand or missed something. Now those things are not possible now because you're communicating, number one, through satellite, and number two, it's just written over there, so there cannot be any confusion in that. So this is a great thing that will change the entire aviation system from satellite-based, from radar-based, which is ground-based, to satellite-based. Okay, accommodate more aircraft and fly closer. This is again one of the biggest advantages that you're going to get. There's going to be more traffic. That means they'll be able to fly much more, and they will be safer, and they will be more efficient, both in terms of fuel because they're going straight, and number two, they are also going to be greener. That means all these harmful gases, carbon dioxide and emissions that are harming our ozone layer is going to be much less. So this is one of the biggest advantages of the next-gen system. Straight flight paths, like I already explained, less fuel time, emissions, less noise also because you're in the air for a shorter time, more aircraft and greater safety. In 2018, fuel saving was 1.4 billion gallons. And of course, it was more in 2019. So there's a lot of saving in terms of dollars and cents, which means the airlines are going to make more money. They're going to be much more profitable. And emissions, if you look at 14 million tons and save 23 billion in cost. So emissions meaning your harmful gases that come out of the exhaust of the aircraft. So that's next gen, okay? And I told you it is CSAR in Europe, and there are other similar ones other parts of the world, but the concept is very similar. Let's go down to the next topic, which is drones, right? Anybody else? Anybody knows what else do we call drones in the technical language? Any idea?
Sir, UAV.
No idea? RPVs, remotely piloted vehicles.
Oh,
UAVs, unmanned aerial systems, or unmanned aerial vehicles and unmanned aerial systems. Also, they call it SUAS, small unmanned aerial systems. Okay, all these are same as drones, but there are different terminologies being used. But the latest is UAS or SUAS. Why? Because this is an unmanned thing, of course, but also this is a system, complete system in itself. Okay, because it is also using remote control through satellites as well. So there could be a UAS pilot sitting in California and controlling that aircraft in Afghanistan, which is actually happening like this. So, through satellite, all these vehicles, which are in general, they're called drones in normal common English, but these are all SUAS and UAS, which is unmanned aerial systems. Commercially, we all know Amazon has already started using it. They do deliveries. It picks up a packet and drops it at in your lawn or in your home, wherever you designate. And also there is medical supplies. There's a company called Flirty. They're doing medical supplies in jungles, and it is very difficult to reach those places. they can reach through these drones. And because the drones are becoming so much more in numbers, it is also a hazard. There have been many instances where they have come in the way of airlines. So now everything has to be licensed. So you cannot, beyond a certain size of the drone, you have to get a license to operate it. And obviously there are rules, regulations, and traffic management is integrated with the overall air traffic management system. So drones are going to be, you'll see more and more in the future. And of course in Dubai, and there's a company called EHang. EHang. If you go on YouTube or Google it, there's a company called EHang. They have made this so you just like you call Uber or Kareem. Here you can just get your EHang come to your place. It will no pilot is there. You just sit inside, just like your laptop or smart screen. You just press on it where you want to go, key in your place on the map, and it will take you there. So this is also something that is happening in Dubai. Also, they've started air taxi, and in California also they're doing it. I think in Nevada is the base, but it's a Chinese company in collaboration with an American firm. All right, so let's take a look at the research being done on the future of drones. It's a very short clip. Let's see if we can see this.
As we go forward, we're going to find new ways of using these unmanned vehicles.
They'll probably be autonomous, so they'll be like UAVs, but carry cargo around where there are currently no infrastructure in place.
We may have small swarms of small vehicles interacting with a larger vehicle that basically combines the information from that swarm. So maybe one vehicle flies a small distance and another vehicle learns from it and knows which way to fly.
Probably what makes sense is a heterogeneous swarm, one where not every element of the swarm is the same. Some elements of the swarm carrying sensors, some carrying other types of electronics. So it's an adaptable system that can adapt to a changing environment and a changing future that is difficult for us to predict.
The true value of research is not in the answer you get that you knew you were looking for, but the answer that you find that you didn't know to look for.
So use this term swarm. Use this term swarm. What does it mean? So in the future, they say that there will be swarms of UAVs or UAS. Idea?
There are a very large group of them.
Yes, that's correct. A swarm is a large, like you have honeybees. There's a swarm of bees, right? So similarly, you will have these swarms of UAVs, and even in military operations, they say that in all likelihood, if there are, let's say, 1,000 these small planes come in, which are basically unmanned, how will you shoot them? How will you get them? There are thousands of them, and they're not as expensive, and there's no human being there. So, you can afford to launch it and reach the target. Even if you shoot down a few, there will be a few who will reach the target. Some will be carrying electronic warfare material, and some carrying cameras, and some may be carrying weapons. So, all those things are possible in the near future. And this is already being tested, and many places they're doing experiments and so on. So more of it, you will see it in the future. Also, enough for the drones, we have another topic called affluence and travel. And then there's a thing called propensity to travel. You know what is affluence, right? Oops. What does affluence mean? Affluence. Is it a new word?
So is it from influence? Does it derive from influence or something?
No. Affluence means more money. Basically, you say this is an affluent society. That means this society can afford to spend more money. Okay. So when you say so and so is an affluent person, that means he's a rich person. Okay. So richness and travel. Some people think that very rich countries, because this is what many people do not really understand. Even those who are in the aviation profession sometimes do not really comprehend as to what does it mean. If United States and Netherlands, Finland are very rich countries, every individual makes a lot of money, so they're more affluent, they should be flying more, right? But the fact is that small companies, small countries, relatively less affluent countries, that means relatively poorer countries, yes, they do not travel. If you see on the left, trips per capita, that means how many times do you fly and how much do you make? GDP per capita is per capita means, let's say if the GDP per capita is 10,000, that means on the average, every person in that country, let's say Malaysia, Seychelles, Brazil, they make close to $10,000 every year, right? So in the initial stages where the GDP per capita, that means people are not as affluent, you will see that they're traveling less and less. Their travel is, but at a very fast rate, it is growing up at a very fast rate between, let's say, at this point and this point, which is they will find that they will be traveling almost as much. Let's say this is almost as much as flying in France and United Kingdom and Spain and United States. All these places, they're also flying, let's say, once a year, and these people are flying, let's say, 0.8, and then once they reach certain level, they're all about the same because this line is flat. So the lesson learned over here is that if Pakistan, getting back to Pakistan, is relatively sitting somewhere in this region, but the moment we grow just a little bit more, we may be hitting this line of close to 1, and then maintain that close to 1 after certain period. You'll find that the difference is very little. So this is called basically propensity. Propensity means your ability or your likelihood to travel. All right? Propensity to travel, your likelihood to travel, your chances that you will travel, or a certain number of people will travel. So the propensity of travel increases very rapidly as your economy of individuals improve. And then after a very short period, then it becomes a flat all the way. Okay? So this is another important thing that you need to understand, that if Pakistan is what it is and slightly more, just a little bit more, this is called also called the tipping point. Tipping point. Okay? And there's another term, disposable income. Disposable income. So as the disposable income increases, then you tend to travel. You want to go and meet your, if you're from one city, you want to travel to another city. Let's say if you're in Karachi, you want to go to Lahore, or if you're in Saudi Arabia and you want to come back to Pakistan. So you have more disposable income. That means at the end of the month, you have some money left, and that money is called disposable income. And this disposable income, because your basic necessity needs are filled up, and now you all of a sudden you'll have some money coming in. And then you'll see that once you reach that tipping point is basically a point beyond which your ability to purchase increases. So it does not really matter if you're making, $50,000 a year or more, or you're making somewhere, let's say $20,000 or even $15,000 or even $10,000, you are about the same level. So economy of the aviation or due to aviation would ultimately be a lot, I would say, better than everybody else. So, people who think that our economy is growing at some rate, but as it reaches the correct point, you will find that your ability to travel also would increase. So this is a point that as aviation professionals that you would be, and you are, many of you, would be able to understand this. Let's take a look at world growth, as to how world is growing and what is the RPK. What is RPK? Of course you have read this. Yes, जी बोलिए. What is RPK? RPK. Muslim?
I don't know.
Revenue passenger kilometers. So if there's an aircraft with 100 seats and there are, let's say, 70 seats that people have bought the ticket, then if the aircraft goes and flies by, let's say, 1,000 kilometers, and these 70 people, then 70,000 is RPK. 70,000 is RPK. Revenue passengers. It has nothing to do with anybody who's bought a ticket is a revenue passenger. And if he or she has flown in an aircraft that has gone to 1,000 miles, then that person has traveled 1,000 miles. So if there are 20 people, then it will be 20,000 kilometers will be your RPK. This is one of the benchmarks in aviation to find out, which airline is doing better and which aircraft is doing better in terms of carrying passengers and going to places. It is called RPK. So there is a relationship between RPK and world GDP. In the last slide, we saw GDP per capita, but there's also a world GDP, the growth, the economy of the world is measured through world GDP, the gross domestic product. So whenever there's a drop, whenever there's a drop in world GDP, that means the economy of the world has gone down, like COVID-19, the economy has gone down. You will also find that the aviation's RPK has also followed a similar pattern. Okay, so you can say that economy of nations has an impact on the aviation industry, and aviation industry also has an impact on the growth of the country in terms of economies. So if there's better aviation industry in a country, its economy will be better. Take the example of Singapore. When Singapore started off in early 70s, Lee Kuan Yew was the founder of the new Singapore. They broke up from Malaysia. And he said, you know, I want to have one of the best airlines and one of the best airports. They said, what are you talking about? Such a small country, you can go from one end to the other in less than maybe 50 minutes. That's the entire country. In Karachi, you can go from one end to the other maybe in 50 minutes, maybe in 1 hour. But this is the entire country. And said, no, this is what is going to take off the economy of the country, and the economy will boost because of aviation sector. So he made one of the best airports in the world, which is Changi Airport, CHANGI, and of course the Singapore International Airline, SIA. Okay, and so therefore it is important to know as to what impact aviation has, and aviation is measured in generally speaking in RPK. So RPK is revenue passenger. It's not the revenue, but it is the revenue passenger. And there are also some non-revenue passengers, like an airline's own people traveling from one place to another, maybe on leave, maybe on duty, maybe for whatever reason, the airline gives to their own employees sometimes a ticket, a free ticket. So they are not included. They are non-revenue passengers. So revenue passengers and how much they have traveled is the RPK, and that is one of the benchmark for measuring the volume of aviation. All right. All right. Let's take a look at very quickly on some global statistics.
So Wali?
Gigi.
So we didn't discuss anything regarding the the aircraft manufacturing companies, like the Airbus going, like recently now this Boeing 737 MAX aircraft, they're having technical issues, and most of the small airlines, they bought that aircraft due to it's like cheap and fuel efficient, but due to
Yes.
the crash of Ethiopian Airlines, so most of the
Yes.
airlines, they had to ground their aircrafts.
Yes.
That also gave a big impact on the aviation industry as well.
Very nice. Very nice. Yes. In fact, there are so many aspects in aviation future which has impacted and is likely to impact. So I just selected some of the things that are more critical than others. By the way, we can discuss 737 MAX, but very briefly, this was an error where they changed the engine because they wanted to get into a more efficient engine, and because of that, the center of gravity of the aircraft changed. So they put in a computer-based system that would counter that change in the center of gravity because of the weight change. And they did not really brief either the pilots or maintenance crew to. So it was like a sealed component, and and the action that that system did was that it was pushing the aircraft nose down, thinking that it is reaching a critical angle of attack. Okay, where when you say critical angle of attack, it is the attitude of the aircraft that is about to make it go into a stalled condition, where the lift is not going to be generated. So it was a false indication that pushed the aircraft down, the control column down, and obviously they went into this accident. And there are many more things to it that we can talk about it. But now, very recently, FAA has approved the 737 MAX, which was grounded all over the world after these accidents. And now it is, because remember, you know, when you talk about America, America is nothing but America is Boeing, America is IBM, America is Microsoft. They will protect these big countries in whatever form and shape that they can. Although it gave a big blow to the aviation industry at large, but also manufacturing in United States, because Boeing was leading and of course Airbus was catching up, and this was a major concern. But nonetheless, the bottom line is that it's going to come back in, and that is what I had also predicted, that America would not let Boeing down, whatever the case may be. And now that is what you see it now. So it is back on track, and hopefully safer also. But there's a lesson learned, obviously. So anyway, let's